A new law set to take effect within 24 hours will punish homosexual sex and adultery with death by stoning. The United Nations is criticising the new penal code being implemented April 3rd in the small Southeast Asian kingdom of Brunei. The new law mostly applies to Muslims, though some aspects will also apply to non-Muslims. It stipulates the death penalty for rape, adultery, sodomy, robbery and insulting or defaming the Prophet Muhammad. It also introduces public flogging as punishment for abortion and amputation for theft. It also criminalises exposing Muslim children to the beliefs and practices of any religion other than Islam. Now, there are no elections in Brunei, an absolute monarchy. It's been ruled for some 51 years by Sultan Hassan al-Bolkiah. Now, homosexuality is already illegal and punishable by up to 10 years imprisonment. But the changes would see Brunei become the first Asian country to make homosexuality punishable by death, and it's through whipping and stoning.
Religion and human rights are not opposing forces. In fact, many of the fundamental tenets of both are exactly the same. We are calling on the government of Brunei to halt bringing into effect this law and instead to launch a consultation with religious leaders, with government leaders, civil society, and people from various communities to try to come up with legislation that can fight crime, but at the same time uphold the human rights of all the people of Brunei.
Truth Wins Out founder Wayne Besen joins me now with further insight. Wayne, it's great to have you with us. We are, of course, hearing widespread condemnation about this penal code that's set to be introduced April 3rd. We've seen celebrities like George Clooney and Elton John condemning the law. Clooney, he's calling for boycotts of hotels that are controlled by a Brunei government-owned agency. These moves certainly won't stop this new law, but what is it achieving, Wayne?
It's great because it's raising awareness. You know, I just took on Google and Apple and Microsoft and Amazon over a Pray Away the Gay ex-gay app, and a lot of people told me, oh, those are big companies. Nothing can happen. You're not going to be able to get them to take down those apps. You know what? They all took down the apps after a 5-month campaign. So when I hear that things can't be done and that activism can't make changes, I know better. We need a concentrated international effort to make Brunei a pariah. That includes economically, culturally, socially, and if need be, even getting up in the faces when the elite of Brunei try to socialize at parties across the world or wherever it may be. This can be done. We can apply enough pressure, and George Clooney deserves a lot of credit for stepping up and speaking out for human rights, and I think it's terrific that he's doing that, and everybody should applaud him.
What can be done on a non-governmental level or a non-institutional level by us as everyday people?
Well, I think people, for one thing, can boycott all of their properties. I think we can call our lawmakers. I think protests are in order. Whatever it takes. What we are seeing in Brunei is barbaric, and it is going literally back to the Stone Age, it's no pun intended. Could you imagine for a moment, think about this, if we turned on the news and saw a criminal in any country in the world single out a gay person or a person for anything and stone them to death? How horrified we would be. We would look at the person who did this as a sick, twisted murderer who belongs in jail, and yet an entire country is making that policy. Brunei has become nothing short of a hate crime with a flag, and it's a disgrace to the international order, and it needs to stop.
Wayne, I have to agree with you. Why are we seeing this law then enacted now? What is it supposed to assist with?
Well, we've heard a couple different theories. One is to get back at somebody in the elite royal family, allegedly, who might be having gay affairs. That's one thing that has been put out there. The other is that it is seen as a measure to hold back radical Islamists that want that kind of harsh Sharia law as a way to mollify them. But to me, I don't care what the reason they have. It absolutely is unacceptable We cannot allow this to happen. Well, many countries across the world, historically really, are getting rid of laws that are anti-gay, getting rid of laws that are backward. We have Brunei going back centuries. And we have to stand up and fight this. And you know what? It's not even if the law, we keep hearing about if it's implemented or not. That doesn't matter. The very fact that people have to live under such fear is psychological terrorism, and not just in Brunei. It is a disgrace and an insult to LGBT people everywhere. It sends a message to gay and lesbian people everywhere in the world, and trans people, that our lives are worthless, that they are meaningless, that if we exist, that we can be snuffed out. And I think that's why we have to fight this. It goes way beyond Brunei. You know what? Sovereignty is no excuse for savagery, and human rights transcend borders, and that is the message that Brunei needs to hear.
Now, equal rights and gay rights, of course, have come a long way, of course, over decades. There's still a long way to go. But I just want to pick up and hammer home on a point that you're raising here. How are you reflecting upon the fact that while gay marriage, for example, is being only now introduced in some countries, laws like this are being introduced in others in the year of 2019?
Well, that's not surprising. We have been in a war of a medieval mindset versus a modern mindset for centuries. It goes back to the Enlightenment and before then. We have forces within our own country, in the United States, like Donald Trump and Mike Pence, who are backwards and would inflict harm on LGBT people. In fact, when our Vice President Mike Pence was the governor of Indiana, that's exactly what he did. But we have fought back against this. In Israel, there are forces of modernity and forces of medieval mindsets. In Europe, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter where you are. The difference is those backward, divisive forces have won in certain societies. Brunei, for example, and Saudi Arabia is another example where you look at what's happening over there with Jamal Khashoggi murdering the journalist and the treating women like pets. It's unacceptable. But this fight is everywhere in every country, even the most liberal countries. There are elements out there that want to drag everybody back, and it's up to us as a society, societies throughout the world, to fight back and fight for the values of enlightenment that have moved the world and propelled it forward.